You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Tuesday is already my busy day. I do 2 broadcasts. I do a bunch of other stuff. I am on the go from the time I get out of bed until the time I call it a night. And then James Gunn has to go and announce the DC Studios lineup. Man, it's going to be a day. Stay tuned for the Dan Wickline Show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. It is the last day of January. It is the end of the month, and James Gunn kept his word. We are definitely going to be talking about that. Now, Kyle and I were live this morning after all the news broke. We talked about it for a while, but instead of just rerunning that, we thought, let's continue the conversation, see about anything that popped back up. So we're going to do that. By the way, hello to Cool, hello John, Triple B, and Ed. Glad you guys are all here. So we are going to talk about it, but instead of me trying to recap all of the announcement, I thought, let's just have James Gunn tell it himself.
Hey everybody, I'm James Gunn. I'm the co-CEO of DC Studios. So as many of you know, DC has been disconnected in film and television for a long time. And it's one of our jobs, mine and Peter's, is to come in and make sure the DCU is connected in film, television, gaming, and animation. That the characters are consistent, played by the same actors, and it works within one story. And if something is outside of that, like Matt Reeves' Batman or Todd Phillips' Joker or Teen Titans Go, that it is clearly labeled as DC Elseworlds, outside of the mainstream DCU continuity. Now, Peter and I have gotten pretty lucky in terms of the 4 projects that are coming out over the next year. First, we have Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Shazam has always been off kind of in his own part of the DCU, so he connects very well. That moves directly into The Flash, a fantastic movie that I really love that resets the entire DC universe. Then to move into Blue Beetle, a fantastic film about a kid who's a marvelous part of the DCU, and then into Aquaman 2, which leads directly into our next few projects, which I'm going to tell you about now. So Peter and I, along with a group of very talented writers, have started to map out an 8 to 10 year plan of what DC Studios will be in film, television, and gaming. This first chapter is called Gods and Monsters. Now, what I'm about to tell you, is a part of the first chapter. It's not the entire first chapter. The first project is Creature Commandos. Creature Commandos is an animated series. I've written all the episodes. Something we're going to do that's a little bit different at DC is we're going to have characters move into animation, out of animation, usually having the same actor play their voice as who plays them in live action. The next project up is Waller. This is a story of Amanda Waller, played by Viola Davis. Viola Davis is going to team up with members of Team Peacemaker, and this is a story that's been created by Crystal Henry, who did Watchmen, and Jeremy Carver, who created the Doom Patrol. It is a fantastic story that's out of this world, and I can't wait for people to see it. Okay, next up is the big one, the true beginning of the DCU. This is called Superman Legacy. This is being written by me. I'm in the middle of it. I'm having a great time doing it. And Superman will be released into theaters July 11th, 2025. Okay, the next thing is a big premiere HBO television series called Lanterns. This is a story of a couple of Green Lanterns, John Stewart and Hal Jordan, and we have a few other Lanterns peppered in there, but this is really a terrestrial-based TV show, which is almost like True Detective, with a couple of Green Lanterns who are space cops watching over Precinct Earth. In it, they discover a terrifying mystery that ties into our larger story of the DCU. Next is a big movie called The Authority. The Authority is a passion project of mine. It's based on the marvelous Wildstorm characters we are now bringing into the DCU and will interact with all of our primary DCU characters. The Authority are a group of superheroes who think the world is broken and they want to fix it by any means necessary. I think it's a very different look at superheroes. We're doing a television series called Paradise Lost. Paradise Lost is the story of Paradise Island, usually known as Themyscira, which is the birthplace of Wonder Woman. It's almost like Game of Thrones with Westeros, but with all of the inhabitants of Paradise Island. The introduction of the DCU's Batman is The Brave and the Bold. The Brave and the Bold is the story of Batman and his actual son, Damian Wayne. This is based on Grant Morrison's great comic book run. Damian Wayne is my favorite Robin. He's a little assassin who Batman tries to get in line. And so this is the story of the two of them and the beginning of sort of the Bat family in the DCU. Next up is a TV series called Booster Gold. Booster Gold is one of comics' really popular cult heroes. He is a fascinating guy. He's a loser from the future who uses future technology to come back to present day and become a superhero so that people will love him. It is basically the superhero story of imposter syndrome on an HBO Max series. One of my favorite comic book series from last year was Tom King's run on Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. And so we're going to turn that into a big science fiction epic film. Now, Superman is a guy who was sent to Earth and raised by loving parents, whereas Supergirl in this story, she is a character who was raised on a chunk of Krypton. She watched everybody around her perish in some terrible way. So she's a much more jaded character. And that brings me to Swamp Thing, the last thing we're going to talk about, a very dark horror story in the origins of the monster who is Swamp Thing. And although it's totally outside of the rest of the DCU, it will still feed into the rest of the stories. Anyway, those are the stories that I can tell you about right now. I've loved the DC characters since I was a child. They're incredibly important to me. I knew that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do something very different. One of the things that's very important for me in all of these movies and TV series is that the director's vision and the vision of the writers and all of the creators is unique and something special. Storytelling is always king. That's all that matters to us. And I want to be true to those stories. I want to be true to you guys and really give you something different than you've ever seen before. Anyway, thank you, everybody. I appreciate you watching. I hope this was exciting for you because it's really exciting for me. And I can't wait to start to dive into these stories with you guys on this grand adventure. Thank you so much.
All right. Yeah, that's a lot to unpack, a lot to talk about. And by the way, hello to Leonard, Lyle, both of you guys. Glad you could be here. All right. To help unpack this, we're going to continue the conversation we had earlier by bringing in Kyle. Hello. You're muted.
Yeah, that's why I didn't start talking before I clicked the button.
Yeah.
But I didn't know when Jay was going to bring me in, and I didn't want people to hear me drinking soda over James Gunn. So
now, there's a lot to unpack there. The first thing I want to do is address Triple B's comment right there. He says, sounds like a lot. No way they do all these projects. I absolutely believe they will do all these projects because what they're talking about is basically 2025 through 2027. And they're laying it out to be 2 movies and 2 TV shows a year. So now I don't know if that counts the Elseworld stuff. I think it does. But once this year wraps up, we're going to get the Joker sequel in 2024. In 2025, we're going to get the Batman 2 and Superman. But the other movies they talked about are The Authority, Supergirl, and Swamp Thing. So that's only 3 movies. Then you've got Booster Gold, and Brave and the Bold. So that's 4 movies. So with the Batman, that's 6 over 3 years. That's exactly what they talk about. And then TV-wise, it's Booster Gold, Paradise Lost, Lanterns, Waller, Creature Commandos. That's only 5. Again, 3 years. So it does feel like they're going to do their 2 movies, 2 TV shows a year.
Well,
So I think that's very believable.
And remember, Dan, like we talked about earlier, and this is something that, anybody who wasn't here earlier, this is the first time they may be hearing it. Superman Legacy is July 2025.
Right.
The way it's presented in all of the reporting and in the statements from James Gunn is it's like Creature Commandos and Waller are coming before that. So even if Waller launches before that in 2025, that means Creature Commandos has to come in 2024.
Yeah.
I mean, they could obviously launch them both in 2025, but that would be kind of a packed schedule in Q1 2025. So I'm guessing that we're going to get Creature Commandos or Waller at the end-ish of 2024, Q3, Q4 2024.
Yeah.
Then Q1, you get the other show coming into summer 2025, which is your Superman movie.
Right. Then you get the Batman 2 in October. So, plus they do say, he says very clearly that this is only part of phase 1, or I'm sorry, chapter 1. We don't want to use the word phase. That's the other guys, the marvelous other guys. He does say marvelous quite a bit. I thought that was interesting.
Well, that's one of those things that, though, that's probably something that needs to be trained out of him.
Yeah.
Or he needs to stop using Stan Lee words.
But you've also got to understand that these two, Kevin Feige is a fan of James Gunn. James Gunn is a fan of Kevin Feige. And they don't necessarily have to be against each other. I mean, Feige has come out and said very clearly he hopes they're great and he'll be the first one in line to buy tickets for whatever they put out. And I believe that.
Keep your friends close, your enemies closer is the thing too. So
yeah, everything I'm hearing about the Batman 2 is it's not going to be the Joker. They're not going straight into the Joker. They plan on holding that off, or he'll be more of a background character than anything. And that the Penguin movie is going to feed into the Batman 2. It's going to set it up, the Penguin TV series, excuse me. So I wonder if that'll also count as one of the TV shows.
I don't know. This is the thing I'm going to struggle with going forward. We have this list now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to speculate on other things that might get made or that we've heard are getting made that aren't part of this list as to whether or not they'll count or not, whether or not they'll actually get made or not. Because for me, the safest way to continue to approach DC is to look at exactly what James Gunn says and nothing more, nothing less.
Right.
Because when you start getting into the other stuff, that's when you start getting into this, well, maybe it'll happen or maybe it won't. You start getting into this, you can get let down territory. Yeah, and if I look at just what James Gunn says, then that's all I have to let me down.
In this case, I think James Gunn forgot to mention the Penguin series because we know Matt Reeves has said the Penguin series will feed into the Batman 2 and also that there'll be the Arkham series. So those two are moving forward.
But again, that might not be part of whatever they're calling chapter 1.
No, it's like not. That's
and it might not be part of what they're calling the Elseworlds. The statement is that it's a pretty high bar for the Elseworlds.
Yeah, but those things are part of Matt Reeves's corner.
Because he doesn't mention them, I'm choosing to not care about them.
Okay.
Because then when James Gunn says, "Oh yeah, I forgot to mention Penguin," then we add it to the list.
Yeah. Well, it's like Lois, Superman and Lois. He came out and said after that announcement that he thinks there's going to be 1 or 2 more seasons of the show, and that's it. Which means that it'll probably wrap up before the first Superman Legacy comes out.
Right.
Which makes a lot of sense.
It certainly does. And that's the thing, is that I'm guessing, and I don't know how James Gunn works. I had applied to work for his production company years ago, when he was like a kind of a nobody.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how James Gunn works exactly, but the way I work when I do these things, especially for the experience, is I have a plan. So I put my list together of these are the shows I'm working on. Here's a list of the other stuff that is available to me or the other stuff that other people are working on that I need to pay attention to. And sometimes they don't coalesce, right? They don't mesh.
Right.
So when James Gunn says, oh yeah, I forgot to mention Penguin, or I forgot to mention the Arkham series, or, oh, hey, we've decided that the Penguin show slots in here and the Arkham series slots in here. That's when we'll add them to the whole overall list and start to see a fuller picture of what this first chapter is.
Right. But at least with the Penguin, like I said, we know that it's setting up the Batman 2. So it'll be out before October of 2025.
Right.
Because that's when the Batman 2 comes out. Lyle makes a good point. He says it's a great plan, not a promise. And Gunn's very clear about that. If things need to move, then they're going to move.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But they only gave us 2 dates. The only thing that had dates were Batman 2 and Superman Legacy.
Right.
Everything else is just coming. This is going to come.
Right.
Yeah.
And it kind of, in his statements and stuff, it kind of alludes to a list, but right, because they're not saying this comes out in March 2025, this comes out in October, this comes out in July. Yeah, like Marvel does that, right? Where they give you a timeline and it's this, then this, then this, then this, then this, then this.
Right.
It's not what he's doing. He's saying these are the things, and kind of this is what we're going for.
Yeah.
But I think James Gunn is giving himself an out. And I've been thinking about this since we were talking earlier. One of the things that has hurt Marvel in recent years was not building into its timeline an out. We had a global pandemic that shut production down on a whole lot of stuff, and Marvel had to move a bunch of stuff around and totally mess up their timelines.
Yeah.
To the point where they had to go and reshoot movies because the movie that was supposed to set up parts of, wasn't coming out until later. So they had to go and redo parts of movies to make them make sense now. James Gunn is saying, okay, we've got these 2 calendar points. July of 2025, October 2025. Everything else is coming, and this is kind of what we're thinking, but I'm not going to tell you when, because what if the animation studio gets shut down for some reason? Or what if,
right.
You have an actor like Viola Davis who's got other work. She can't get in to shoot the Amanda Waller show quite as early as we'd hoped.
Yeah.
You kind of, figure those things out. And then with these other movies, these other concepts, they're going to be casting actors. Some of them will be known commodities. Some of them might be not.
Mm-hmm.
But one way or another, they're going to have to slot these projects into those actors' schedules.
Right. Or you cast actors based on, you check their availability before you cast them.
Right. Based on availability. But then you're not necessarily getting the actor you want. You're getting the actor that's available.
Yeah.
And I don't think that James Gunn is, the way he talked about wanting to get the actors that the filmmakers they're working with want, it doesn't sound like he's going to compromise on the casting based on who's available.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And it does sound like that all of this stuff is a lot like phase 1 of Marvel, more standalone. The only thing that sounds like it is setting up everything else is the Green Lantern series. That's the one that's going to kind of kick off whatever the big overall story is, which I'm fascinated as hell because they described it like True Detective. So it's like, what gets, but it's going to be terrestrial, which means here on Earth.
Right.
So
I said this to somebody the other day, and I don't know if I've said it on the air or not. James Gunn, the statement came out from The Rock about how Black Adam wasn't part of the first set of things.
Yeah.
And I made a statement to somebody that goes, how busy is The Rock? He has 4 or 5 movies a year coming out right now, Plus, he's producing a television show, and his studio is producing a whole bunch of other stuff. How busy is he really? And when you think about Black Adam not being part of this, could they conceivably slot in to The Rock's existing schedule, shooting, producing, starring in a movie the size of Black Adam, and also fit it into this schedule? And I don't think they could, because of how busy both things are. So it's an interesting way to look at it now that we've got this framework to say, oh, okay, well, just because Black Adam wasn't listed here doesn't mean it's done. And at the same time, the reality of studio production in Hollywood right now is the earliest we probably would have got another movie is 2028.
I think if Black Adam had done well, we would get one quickly.
We'd get one certainly quicker.
Yeah, but I think you have to boil it all the way back down to when David Zaslav took over Warner Brothers, when Discovery bought it. He came out and said clearly that Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman are the hinge pins, or the diamond characters. They're they're the center point of the DC universe. And I think everybody we get, and this was something that Gunn hinted at in another thing, is that they're going to be basically off of those three families. He talked about the Authority as being part of the Superman family, connected to Superman, Batman. And so I think we're going to have that set up. And there's going to be some stuff outside of that. Like, I don't think Swamp Thing necessarily exists in one of those three families. But Swamp Thing is also a character that a lot of people know about because of the original movies. There was a TV series in the past, and then there was a TV series recently. He's popped up in a lot of different shows. So I think Swamp Thing's a more popular character, and he's a way into the side of the universe that the other three don't have. So that's kind of like the fourth post in the tent,
Yeah, I for a long time, DC considered Harley Quinn to be the fourth tentpole. And I think they realized how flimsy that tentpole was.
She's part of the Batman universe.
Well, not even that. Is that she had become her own thing.
Yeah.
Especially in the comic book world, when they had paired her off with Poison Ivy and she was doing crossovers with Archie. And there were a lot of things that were Harley Quinn is the fourth tentpole. And they realized, I think, how shaky that was when they saw what happened to the Birds of Prey movie. And so I think going out and trying to develop a fourth tentpole, whether it be the Lanterns, which I think is a reasonable expectation, or it's some of the Vertigo titles like Swamp Thing or like Sandman or whatever that had originally been a Vertigo title.
Mm-hmm.
Even though Swamp Thing wasn't a Vertigo title to begin with, but things that spent time at Vertigo.
Yes.
Could be Constantine, could be any number of these things. Trying to find that fourth tentpole in some of the more mystical, magical characters rather than just the powered characters, I think might be a smart idea.
Well, I think it comes down to, and it's what David Zaslav said, and this is addressing what JD just wrote. When it comes to DC, it's Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. So yeah, we've had a lot of Batman movies. We've had a lot of different people in the Batman costume, and we've had quite a bit of Superman. And there is a certain amount of fatigue to those characters. And because of how often they've been restarted, how many different people have worn the costume. But they're also, some of them, they are the most recognizable heroes on the planet. Marvel's done great at making Iron Man and Captain America household names, but Superman and Batman have been household names for every generation since the 30s. Your grandparents know who they are, your grandkids know who they are, type of thing. So where it would make sense from a fan standpoint that, oh, we need to relax, but from a business standpoint, those are your money makers. So you have Superman, and off of Superman you get the Authority and you get Supergirl. Off of Batman you start spinning those off. You start building these universes around those characters. So you can't put them on a shelf because they're too important, and they're the basis. Because again, we're comic book people, so we know who Booster Gold is, we know who the Authority are, we know who the Creature Commandos are. Most people in the general populace don't. Green Arrow is finally starting to get on that level because he was on TV for almost 15 years between Smallville and Arrow. So these characters are starting to get, but Superman and Batman have always been popular, and you got to just put them out there.
It's true. I think building the analogy I made earlier, and we could talk about this more if we want, is that what James Gunn has essentially had to do was knock the house down. The house that I can't remember the guy's name who was there before him. Huh?
Zack Snyder?
No, Walter Hamada.
Oh.
The house that Walter Hamada built, it got leveled. And James Gunn and Peter Safran right now, they're fixing the foundation. Things were a little uneven. Things were a little busted up. They're fixing that first.
Yeah.
You can't build a house without a foundation, and DC didn't have one.
Right.
It's evidenced in James Gunn's own statements. And again, we can actually quote those later if you want, Dan. But you got to fix what you could fix and then build from there. If you don't do that, then you're just building a house on stilts, and it's never going to stand.
Right. All right. We need to take a quick break. We're probably only going to get one in today. So let's roll the break, and we'll come back and we'll get back to the show. So be right back.
Did you know that every experience show, including some exclusive content, streams on Twitch? Check it out. Twitch.tv/the_EXP. Or just scan that QR code.
Did you know that across America there are over 2, maybe even 3 live stream producers who can't even afford Mountain Dew? Take Brian here. Brian has gone 2 weeks without a sip of Red Bull. If it goes on much longer, he may take a shower and get a real job. Situations like this are as tragic as they are preventable. Join the experience on YouTube and gain access to special emojis and members-only streams. For less than a cup of coffee, you can keep socially awkward hermit people working from their parents' basements where they belong. Scan the QR code on the screen to join. You'll be glad you did.
Go follow the experience on TikTok at @the_EXP1 or scan the QR code on the screen. Our TikTok is like everywhere else we are, except you only have to deal with us for a minute. Seems like a win-win to me.
Welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. We got a great lineup today. Right after this, we'll be doing in-stores this week, where Kyle and I will just keep going. Jay will join us with that other guy,
Sean,
and we'll talk about the new books, and then he'll go into Minute to Skim It, and then we've got Mint Hunter. It's going to be a great night. Remember to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe. We've got the giveaway coming up. We'll be giving out 15 CGC graded comic books once we hit 1,500 subscribers on YouTube. And also check out our Instagram page. We want to get some more viewers on that one too.
Well, we're really close to being able to go live on Instagram.
Yeah, so help us reach 500 followers on Instagram so we can start going live. Now, I'm going to sidetrack here a little bit because some more has come out from Peter Safran, the co-head, having to do with the Batgirl movie. Now, a lot of people were upset that Batgirl got canceled, and there's been this kind of groundswell of, oh my God, it must have been a great movie. They have to release it. They wouldn't kill it for no reason. But this is Peter Safran quoting from Deadline article. And Safran says, I saw the movie. There are a lot of incredibly talented people in front of and behind the camera in that film. But that was not releasable. It happens sometimes. I think Zaslav and his team made a bold and courageous decision to cancel it because it would have hurt DC and those people involved. I spoke to Batman directors Adil El Arbi and Bilal Fallah last week. We'd love to be in business with all of them. Christine Hodson, who wrote it, we're already back in business with her. Now, that's huge right there because like I said, there's been this groundswell of people going, oh, release the Batgirl, release the Batgirl. I don't think they would have pulled the plug if it would have been a hit.
The key word for me is unreleasable.
Yeah.
Guy, as someone who makes a fair amount of stuff that's unreleasable, when it's unreleased, and you just shelve it and you move on.
Right.
And sometimes you spend a lot of time, energy, and money on something that you go, you know what? I'm going to throw it in the garbage and walk away. I had that with a show here on The Experience not that long ago. I spent a lot of time trying to shuffle a show through and get it on the air, and it just didn't work. We just couldn't make it good. And so we just shelved it, and it's gone. And doesn't matter. You have to know what works for your brand and what doesn't, and what will hurt your brand and what won't. And if it will hurt your brand, then the responsible thing to do is to kill it.
Yeah.
And
a lot of studios put out bad movies because they get too deep in. They've already spent the money and they have to recoup some. Now, this was a unique situation where Warner Brothers could write it off and make some of the money back. So it was not quite as bold. There was an opportunity there that they wouldn't normally get. But yeah, I think they could have put it, if it not for that tax break, they probably would have pushed it out. And then we'd be all going, wow, that was horrible. Oh my God. So, and again, they're saying we want to work with the directors again. We want to work with the writer. They've even talked about trying to work with Leslie Grace again, who played Batgirl. So I don't, and there's no way they're closing the door to Brendan Fraser. He's already been part of the DCU with the Robot Man. So I think it really is. We just have to accept that it wasn't a good movie. And there are so many times we sit around and how many times have you watched a movie and went, how did that not get stopped?
Every time Marvel puts a film out. But and I say that facetiously, obviously. But I watched a movie last night that I go, I can't believe this is an Oscar nominee. I would have burnt the film.
Which one was that?
I don't even remember, Dan. That's how bad this movie was. It was one of the ones that are nominated for Best Foreign Feature.
Oh, okay.
And so maybe if I understood Kurdish or whatever language it was in, and I wasn't reading the subtitles, it was a better movie. Don't know. But to me, it was burn the film. I see bad movies all the time. I love bad movies. But an unreleasable movie isn't a bad movie. Necessarily.
And there's no way in hell that any movie studio is going to kill a good movie. Because a good movie is going to make you money. You're going to make money when you release it. You're going to make money when it gets onto your streaming service. You're going to make money in digital or physical media. There's too many possibilities to make money. So if you're killing a film and you're killing it with a tax write-off, so you can't even put it up on streaming services or in anything that might make money, that means that you really thought it was a bad movie.
My question was, Dan, and this is something I don't know, and I would have to ask someone who's a little bit more of an expert on this, but could they give Batgirl to Tubi or Freevee or one of those where, here, just take it. And one of those platforms can have it, get the money generated by it, but DC won't.
No, because most of those have commercials that run, right?
Right, but that money would go towards the operation of whatever Freevee network, or what do they call those?
It cannot be used to make any money.
There you go.
So, yeah, once you do a tax write-off in that sense, it's done. It can't be released in any way that might make money, even as something as extreme as, well, we gave it to this comic convention and they're going to run it for fans. Well, that means people have to buy tickets for the comic convention, and it becomes a draw for the convention. You're making money on it. So you can't do it.
That's fair. I'm not, it's one of those things. I know a little bit about that kind of stuff, but not in that kind of way. So that was my question is okay, if it really is unreleasable, then it'll never come anywhere. But if it's just unreleasable because it didn't fit, is there an option?
No, because they're putting movies out now that don't fit.
Right.
They're still running TV shows. They're running Superman and Lois. They're finishing up Titans and Doom Patrol. They're still doing, they could have made it an Elseworld if they wanted. Or they could have put it out before Flash and said, okay, now it's gone.
Right. John says it's gone forever. In my brain, I just want you guys to know that there's a SD card that has this movie on it. That's in that last scene of Indiana Jones and the, it gets Top Men on it, and it's just getting shelved on a, it's going on a warehouse shelf somewhere in a
next to London After Midnight.
Right, in a little
episodes of Doctor Who.
Static free bag.
Yeah.
Like and that might be what it deserves. I don't know, but like I said, it just I'm glad they made the decision.
Next to the Wonder Woman TV pilot.
I would have. Okay, I will say this. I'm very good friends with the Palicki family. I would have loved to have gotten to see Adrienne play Wonder Woman. It would have made my heart so incredibly happy. Her brother's a fabulous comic writer. She wrote a very good comic herself called No Angel. It would have been great. That was bad, though. That was just bad.
And it had Pedro Pascal.
Well, we know now that Pedro Pascal doesn't save everything.
That's right.
So,
just little green puppet guys, not bad TV shows.
Although not related to anything, have you seen the? There's a meme going around about a girl talking about how nice Pedro Pascal is in person, how he'd come to the movie theater and he way over tipped for popcorn and was just super nice to everybody. And he responded, "I was so high on mushrooms, I didn't know where I was at. And you guys were so nice to me, making sure I got to my theater." Like he has no idea what he did or how he got there. He just was like,
but he's a nice stone person. And that's good.
Right. No, and I like Pedro Pascal as an actor. But I'm glad to see that he wasn't listed as being cast in anything they released today.
Yeah. Creature Commandos. Let's break down the list. Creature Commandos. That graphic they used. Do you think that's from the show, or is that just I'm not familiar with that graphic.
I've not seen this graphic either.
And it's got Weasel in it.
Right.
So, and we know Weasel is the same character from Suicide Squad. So I'm wondering, wait, there's a copyright down there at the bottom. I can't read it. Oh, it's 2023.
Mm-hmm.
So this must be from the show. So I like the artwork. But this seemed like a real weird one for me. You know, how did we get to this? I mean, was this something James Gunn had in the works prior to taking over? And he's like, I'm going to do it. I got it half written.
I don't think so. But you know that thing that writers and storytellers do where they've got a story in mind for a group that they know they'll never be able to get to play with.
Yeah.
I have to believe that James Gunn has wanted to tell a Creature Commandos story since like 1984.
Oh, no doubt about that.
Right? And so he's like, you guys are really going to let me be the boss here? Okay, I'm making a Creature Commandos. And the whole company went, what? And he goes, yeah, and this is what we're going to do. I'm like, okay, go for it. You know, I really do believe that this is probably just him. I've had this idea for a really long time, but I've never said it to anybody out loud because it's dumb. But now that I'm in charge, I'm making it.
Yeah. JD says, I've never seen a more Hulk-inspired Frankenstein, which is funny because Frankie was one of the obvious Hulk inspirations. I've always thought Hulk was more inspired by Jekyll and Hyde than Frankenstein, but yeah, I agree. It's a good, I love that design, but it does really strike me as odd. And then the write-up says a human leader, a werewolf, a vampire, a Frankenstein monster, and a Gorgon. There's no Gorgon in that image. There's no werewolf. I mean, Weasel's not a werewolf. But,
that we know of.
Yeah. It wasn't a vampire. So, and maybe the article I'm pulling it from just pulled the basic definition of Creature Commandos. But who's the human in there? I always thought it was Rick Flag, but it's not, is it?
No. Yeah.
Preston, I agree. Guardians of the Galaxy and Peacemaker worked out, which is why I'm excited for whatever Gunn is putting together. You know, Gunn also did Suicide Squad, which was great. Oh, Rick Flag Sr., John says.
Yeah, it's not the one we know from the Suicide Squad.
Right, but it's still Rick Flag.
Yeah.
It's the older Rick Flag.
Yes.
So. Okay.
So the original lineup, they were part of Project M. And then in World War II, they were designed to fight the Nazis and to go into the South Pacific. And then in the more modern era, they've kind of messed with the team. The most recent version of them was Frankenstein Agent of Shade.
Right.
From the New 52.
Yeah.
Badass
big sword on that one.
Yeah. But the thing of it is, and this is what I couldn't remember and I had to look it up, it's J.M. DeMatteis. Now, if you could take a comic book writer from the 80s and 90s, it's still active, but, you know, really from the 80s and 90s, and say, okay, this is a person who James Gunn should crib from. It's J.M. DeMatteis.
Yeah. Who, by the way, is doing a lot of writing for DC Animated right now.
Mm-hmm.
The DC Animated movies, which I'm curious if they're going to be tied into this as well.
I believe they are.
Okay. Because I do like what they've been doing with like the Man of Tomorrow and, you know, what they've been doing with that universe. So I'm kind of curious what's going to happen.
I clicked on the J.M. DeMatteis Wikipedia page just because I wanted to look something up. And some of the other pseudonyms he used, one of them is Michael Lumbago or Wally Lumbago, which is just Wally Lumbago. Like if you saw that, you would read whatever that person wrote just based on that name alone.
Yeah. All right. So we got Waller, which is pretty much just Peacemaker 1.5. It's the filler between the two Peacemaker seasons, and it's going to have some of the characters from Peacemaker or Suicide Squad. So it's him just continuing. But I think this was actually announced or was in the works a while ago too, because he talked about being other series and stuff. Before he ever got the job, he talked about there being another series he was working on besides Peacemaker that would be a spinoff. So he might have been talking about Creature Commandos, or he might have been talking about Waller. You seem skeptical.
No, I just had an idea.
Do you
I'm
need to sit
looking. Huh?
Do you need to sit down?
No. So JD Smith has a great question. So Peacemaker is not coming back. It is. They just got to figure out how to get it made.
Right. Right now, he's focused on Superman, so he doesn't have time to make Peacemaker season 2. But that will come back, is what we're getting. Do you guys like the idea it's a soft reboot, or should they reboot everyone? I'm mixed on it. There's some great characters. There's some great properties that are out there, and there are also some bad ones, or some. I would like to have seen a clean break, because right now it feels kind of weird to have them keep everybody but Henry or Ben. So it just seems kind of strange to me.
So here's my theory. I'm gonna read off the name of some titles, all written by the same guy, and tell me how they slot into this list. Are you ready?
Uh-huh.
Action comics, adventure comics. Like J.M.D. Mateus wrote a bunch of Superman. He wrote The Authority of the Lost Years. He wrote Booster Gold Volume 2. He wrote Doom Patrol, Dr. Fate. He wrote Brave and the Bold. Formerly known as the Justice League, which is one of my favorite miniseries. Green Lantern Will World, which was a really weird Green Lantern story from the early 2000s. House of Mystery. A ton of different Justice League. Legion of Superheroes. Madame Xanadu. Like, all of this stuff that he's setting up feels like stuff that JMD Mateus has either written or 1 degree off of.
So what you're saying is that JMD Mateus is currently holding photos of James Gunn and is getting him to do all the properties so he gets cash.
I'm saying that maybe James Gunn is a JMD Mateus fan.
That's another possibility.
It's like when Feige started leaning into more of the Nick Spencer stuff with some of the Captain America storylines.
See, I would have said Jim Starlin, but because they really went big on Jim Starlin.
Right, they wound up going the Jim Starlin route because I think they're stronger stories, but he started kind of leaning and kind of hinting at, we're going to do some of this Nick Spencer stuff that we've seen in comics, and they wound up doing Jim Starlin. Maybe this is where James Gunn's comic fandom is leaning, and so he's going, okay, great. What if we just work on this stuff that I know very well, and then you could get the thing I most want from the DC Cinematic Universe now. Scooby Apocalypse. Hey, look, after that Velma show, we need to cleanse our Scooby-Doo palette, and nothing would be better than Scooby-Doo versus zombies.
All right, we're going to start running out of time here. So of the things they announced, which is the one that stands out the most to you? That's the one that you're going, what's the one that really gets your interest?
I'm already standing in line for Creature Commandos. Like, I'm already, sign me up. The thing that I'm most interested in seeing how they pull off is the Authority. The thing I think that will really be telling as to how successful this will be Lanterns. I think if Lanterns doesn't land and isn't parked very deeply, it's going to be the death knell of this sort of administration.
Yeah. You're probably right. And Lanterns is the one for me. That's the one that really jumps out, because we know that Gunn can pull off comedy.
Right.
And then big movies. So I don't have a problem with him doing Superman. I don't have a problem with him, Booster Gold or Waller or any of that stuff. But Lanterns set is kind of a True Detective type style story, and it's going to be the thing that starts tying everything together. There's a lot of pressure on that, and we don't know who's going to play Hal, who's going to play John, how are they going to put all this together. I mean, there's a lot of questions there. And since the plan is that whoever's going to be in this is going to cross into the movies and stuff like that, so it's going to be I think it's going to be some big name people. They're not going to cast, just straight TV actors. They're going to cast people that are going to be able to go between both. So your Hal Jordan and your Jon Stewart are going to have to be big.
It's true. Like I said, it's, I'm not worried about. I want Booster Gold. I don't care about Booster Gold in the sense that I know that James Gunn and whoever he brings in is gonna nail Booster Gold.
Preston, the King in Yellow is Sinestro.
So I'm not worried about that. We've seen a bad Lanterns movie. We've seen that fail. So now do this thing that's never been successful and do it well. I honestly believe anybody who cares about comic books and who is a decent screenwriter can write a decent Superman movie, because he's such a cornerstone to the whole fandom. Write something that's a little more difficult in the Green Lantern, in the Lantern realm, and prove to me that you can do the job.
Did I ever tell you that I read the original script for Green Lantern before, with the original ending?
Did the original ending have Green Lantern owning a Welsh soccer team?
No, the original Green Lantern had him racing into the sky to save Carol, who is falling from an airplane that got hit or whatever, knocked out of the sky. He grabs her and the ring goes dead. It's out of juice. And the way they recharge it is through their love for each other.
Oh.
Swear to God.
So there was never a scenario in place where that movie was going to be any good.
A lot of what we ended up seeing in the movie, yeah. So trust me, what we got in the theater was better than that first draft.
Oh, God. I can't imagine it couldn't be. But what I'm saying is that there was never a scenario where that was a good movie. Yeah, Ed's right. I just puked a little.
Yes.
Correct. So
there was a point where I was still programming, but a buddy of mine kept getting me scripts. I got that. I got the Supermax, the Green Arrow one, which was way better than it should have been and should have been made. So I got to see a lot of that stuff. I also saw an early draft, what became Carnival Row, the TV series.
Mm-hmm.
It was originally a movie script.
Carnival Row was very good.
Yeah.
All right, Dan, I'm going to let you wrap up the show. I got to get ready for the next show.
Right.
Real quick. So I'll let you wrap up, and we'll see everybody in just a minute.
Okay. Yeah. So Kyle's going to take off real quick. We're going to be right back after a quick break, and we're going to be doing in-stores this week where we're going to talk about a bunch of books. We got some good new books, too. We got a few first or number ones, including Where Monsters Lie from Dark Horse, which was way better than I expected it to be. Also a book called Breath of Shadows, number one from IDW. Phoenix Files, number one from Zenescope. Plus we've got new Young Hellboy, Purgatory Must Die, Immortal Red Sonja, and the wrap-up of Minor Threats. So we'll be talking about that in just a couple minutes. That'll be myself, Sean, Jay, and Kyle. Minute to Skim It is after that. And then, of course, we have Mint Hunter, who will be on tonight. There won't be a Crossroads Comics. He's taking the night off. But we have a good lineup. Remember to hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet, because we're going to be doing giveaways. When we hit 1,500 subscribers, we're going to be giving away CGC comics. So you definitely want to be part of that. Ed says, do they release a new Sonja book every week? I know it seems like it. So, because they've got the Immortal Red Sonja, they got the Invincible Red Sonja, and Red Sonja, Hell Sonja. But then they do Spider-Man and Batman books like every week sometimes, it seems. But would love that one. I was so excited for Supermax. Yeah, it was a good script. It really was. So So stick around for that. Please hit the thumbs up button. And we're trying to get to 500 followers on Instagram. So if you could check us out over there, it would be appreciated. So I will be back tomorrow, where I will probably be talking about Critical Role, the next 3 episodes, which are really good. If you guys aren't following Critical Role, that is awesome. And the last 3 episodes were really, really high level. So we'll be talking about Critical Role, and also maybe the new series Poker Face from Ryan Johnson. So come back tomorrow for that. Stick around for In Stores this week, and we'll see you guys in just a couple minutes.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.